Tonight, a brutal winter system wreaking havoc and stunning video of a semi-truck jackknifing and sliding off an icy Kansas highway coated with freezing rain. Facebook video showing another semi already off the road. And watch as this black SUV slides across a median. Another driver narrowly dodging it. By mid-afternoon, Kansas authorities clocked close to 50 crashes, nearly half with injuries. Troopers pleading with people to stay off the roads.
Watch my feet here. Ready for this? That's what we're dealing with out here.
The mayhem caused by a monster winter system already slamming Utah and South Dakota and now barreling east. Tonight, 57 million Americans are under winter storm alerts as parts of the Midwest brace for up to 16 inches of snow and temperatures 25 degrees below average. By Monday, the system set to slam the East Coast, including upstate New York, already buried by lake effect snow. In Kansas City, people are stocking up on shovels and supplies.
Snowmageddon, snow my God.
This as Missouri's Department of Transportation calls this their biggest storm in nearly a decade.
What's that like to go to bed tonight, expecting that tomorrow?
I don't know if I'll be doing much sleep tonight.
Snow my God is the quote of the night, Maggie, in Kansas City right now. And the icy conditions there, I know, caused problems for the Kansas City Chiefs trying to get to their game.
Yeah, Kate, that's right. The Chiefs couldn't take off for Denver to play the Broncos tomorrow because the airport was shut down. But good news tonight, just in the last hour, city officials tweeted those runways are back open. Kate.
Maggie Vespa, thank you. Let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, this is just the beginning of some potentially dangerous weather.
We've got multiple days of this winter storm, Kate, and multiple impacts. Right now, we see some of those snow showers over parts of the Central Plains. But as we get into the overnight hours, that snow, that rain, the freezing rain, all going to expand. We'll even see these blizzard-like conditions continuing with 40-mile-per-hour winds across parts of the Central Plains. Tomorrow, it's a line of thunderstorms with the potential for strong winds and tornadoes. We'll also see parts of I-70, St. Louis, Cincinnati dealing with that heavy snow and more of that ice accumulation across that same region. By Monday, this works to the mid-Atlantic. We'll see significant snow and ice in that region as well. The accumulation's impressive in some spots, up to 3/4 of an inch for localized amounts south of I-70, but the heaviest snow sticks right along I-70, 8 to 14 inches possible when this is all said and done in Kansas City. Kate, multiple inches in Washington, D.C. too.
All right, Angie Lassman, thank you for that.
Overnight, an argument ended in gunfire at a restaurant in Brooklyn. Police say two men got into some kind of dispute at El Nuevo Tipico restaurant in Cypress Hills. It escalated and one man pulled out a gun, firing several times. The other man was hit in the hand. He went to a nearby precinct and told police what happened. Two others were also hurt. A 27-year-old woman who was hit twice in the leg and a 37-year-old man grazed in the stomach. Police are looking for a man who was wearing a gray hat and black pants at the time.
Este siniestro ocurre el día de hoy a las 7 de la mañana. Ellos son provenientes de la ciudad de Cali. El bus sale de la ciudad de Cali a las 8 de la noche del día de ayer con destino a Ipiales. Por la vía panamericana ocurre el siniestro en el sector El Placer y lamentablemente fallecen 13 personas. El total de ocupación del bus era de 42 personas. Los demás han sido trasladados a los diferentes centros médicos.
News coming in from India. 3 crew members were killed after a helicopter of the Indian Coast Guard crashed at Porbandar Airport in the state of Gujarat on Sunday afternoon. Porbandar Superintendent of Police Bhagirath Singh Jadeja, said that the incident took place just after noon. The advanced light helicopter of the Coast Guard crashed during landing at the Port Bandar airport. Its 3 crew members were brought out of the chopper and rushed to a hospital in Port Bandar. However, they succumbed to injuries at the hospital.
At least 6 people were killed after a bus carrying paramilitary troops was targeted in Pakistan's Balochistan. The bus was travelling from Karachi to Turbat city when it was targeted around 7 kilometers west of the city. The Balochistan Liberation Army BLA has claimed responsibility for the attack. Reports citing a senior local police official said that 6 people, including soldiers of Frontier Corps and civilians, were killed, while more than 25 were injured. Claiming responsibility for the attack, a spokesperson for the BLA said that it was a suicide bombing targeting a Pakistani army convoy. The BLA frequently claims deadly attacks against security forces or Pakistanis from other provinces in the restive southwestern province. They have also targeted energy projects with foreign financing, most notably from China. Now, BLA accuses outsiders of exploiting the resource-rich region while excluding residents in the poorest part of Pakistan. Pakistan in recent times has witnessed a dramatic uptick in attacks in recent months, particularly in Balochistan and northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. In 2024 alone, the military has reported 383 soldiers and 925 militants killed in various clashes. Security forces have been battling sectarian, ethnic and separatist violence for decades in Balochistan, which borders Afghanistan and Iran.
Norovirus is a contagious illness, increasing in outbreaks across the country from November to April, according to the CDC. The most common symptoms are nausea, stomach pain, and sometimes body aches. Loveless Chief Nursing Officer Nancy Laster says she's seeing more of it in Albuquerque.
Anecdotally, we've seen more cases coming in with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, and even with staff, right? With people who are staffing in the hospital, we were having more call-outs potentially because of those things.
The CDC says normally people get better within 3 days. Laster says an increase in cases this time of year isn't unusual.
In the wintertime, you get more illnesses, whether it's GI, respiratory. So when these things come, it's not that you don't pay attention to them, but to me, it's just part of the cycle of being in the wintertime. We're more closed in, people are closer together, we're coming out of holidays.
New Mexico Department of Health's chief medical officer says touching a contaminated surface or just being around someone that is sick can also get you sick. And while people might start to feel symptoms 12 to 48 hours later, there is no treatment or vaccine for it.
Hand washing is #1 for norovirus. And interestingly, it isn't killed by hand sanitizer, which is good for so many things. You really have to use that good old-fashioned running water and soap.
All right, moving on. India has upped its surveillance a notch following reports of rising cases of respiratory illnesses in China. The Indian government has asked the World Health Organization to share timely updates regarding the situation in China. In a statement, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare said that the situation in China is not unusual in view of the ongoing flu season. The ministry, citing multiple reports, stated that the cause of the recent surge in influenza, RSV, and HMPV viruses are the usual pathogens that are expected during the season. It also added that these viruses are already in circulation across the globe, including India. The ministry added that the Indian Council of Medical Research, the ICMR, has already put a robust surveillance system in place to monitor influenza and severe acute respiratory illnesses. It also added that there has been no indication of an unusual rise in influenza cases as per the latest data. Now, in addition, doctors from several hospitals have also confirmed that there has been no surge in respiratory illnesses in the recent weeks. The Indian Health Ministry said that the ICMR will enhance the laboratories used for HMPV testing and will be monitoring the trends for the same. The Union Health Ministry held a meeting of the Joint Monitoring Group yesterday. Now, these viruses spread through droplets or aerosols produced by coughing, sneezing, and close contact with infected people. Fever, breathlessness, nasal congestion, cough, sore throat, and headache are the common symptoms. But doctors say some patients can get bronchitis and pneumonia due to the infection.
Police tried and failed to arrest the president of South Korea on Friday as the political and military crisis escalates there. Greg Palkot has more.
The ongoing political standoff in South Korea turned physical on Friday, leading to fears of a possible civil war. President Yoon Suk-yeol is facing impeachment following his declaration of martial law last month. And on Friday morning, some 80 police officers and investigators entered the presidential compound to place him under arrest. But they were met with a human wall of more than 200 soldiers and members of the president's security detail. There were clashes, and police left without detaining the president. On the streets of Seoul, protesters from both sides are making their voices heard.
The country is in a state of civil war and anarchy. President Yoon needs to return so he can normalize the country.
The president needs to be criminally punished so he won't be allowed to do anything. He needs to be impeached as soon as possible.
But others say they just want to return to stability after weeks of uncertainty clouded the holiday season.
While it's a season to celebrate, I feel really pessimistic that this situation has been going on since the end of last year.
Meanwhile, South Korea's Constitutional Court is gearing up for President Yoon's impeachment trial. A procedural hearing was held Friday to finalize the trial schedule and witness lists. And the judges say politics won't play a role in the courtroom.
I will judge independently only by the Constitution and law, without bias, according to my conscience.
Yoon supporters are now drawing parallels with President-elect Trump. Some even carrying signs that say, "Stop the steal." In London, Greg Palkot, Fox 32 Chicago. Anthony, back to you.
Moving on, China is set to be developing what could be the most powerful machine gun in the history of mankind. Metal Storm machine gun has the capacity of 5 or more barrels. Each of the barrel is capable of firing bullets at a rate of 450,000 rounds per minute, which is 100 times more than the US military's most powerful Phalanx system. It fires at the rate of 4,500 rounds per minute. The resulting barrage is capable of intercepting hypersonic missiles traveling at speeds greater than Mach 7. If we talk about its design, it is container-like, with replaceable magazines filled with barrels, each packed with bullets. Once the bullets are fired, the disposable barrels are simply discarded along with the container. Experts say the firing technology can improve loading speed and achieve the combat objectives of multiple strikes and rapid counterattacks. Metal Storm is equipped with a contactless electronic trigger consisting of coils. The trigger has a firing time of 17.5 microseconds. Metal Storm's history dates back to the 1990s, when an Australian inventor, Mike O'Dwyer, proposed the idea for the machine gun. Following this, O'Dwyer created a 36-barrel test system that could fire 1 million rounds per minute. Later in 2006, O'Dwyer, quoted by the media, said that China's People Liberation Army approached him and offered him $100 million for the technology. However, owing to technical hurdles, the project was ultimately abandoned.
Australia's economic performance is closely tied to the Australian dollar, and right now it's in the doldrums. That creates a domino effect that stretches all the way to our household budgets and might even impact what we get in an interest rate cut. Here's political editor Charles Croucher.
Tonight, the Australian dollar is worth around 62 US cents. That is the equal lowest point in almost 5 years, dating back to the crash at the start of COVID in March 2020. Last year, our dollar was down 8% against the US dollar, 3% against the euro, and even 7% against the pound, even as the UK struggled. This hurts the cost of living for an importing nation like ours, and you've probably noticed the price of anything from overseas is higher. Clearly, it's a bad time for a trip to America, England or Europe, but our dollar remains strong in Japan and New Zealand, including places that use the Kiwi dollar like the Cook Islands. It's also strong in South America, particularly Argentina. While it's tough for travellers, it is great news for our producers, with Aussie products more affordable internationally. Finally, like so much in Australia, the dollar will depend on the Reserve Bank. A weak dollar forces many prices up, making rate cuts less likely. However, if rates are dropping, the dollar will likely follow. It's another factor for Michelle Bullock and her board this year.
And now from South America, where a fresh migrant caravan of over 1,500 individuals have embarked on a journey from northern Mexico to the United States. Fleeing economic and political instability, particularly in Venezuela, these migrants are racing against time to cross the border before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. The group has also appealed to Mexican authorities for support while trekking under the watchful eyes of the country's National Guard.
We just want them to support us and let us move on. We don't want to stay here. We want to reach a future. The American dream where we are treated like people, where we can live and take care of our families, our children, and the people we leave behind, who are our family.
And now adding to the urgency is the fear that the Trump administration will dismantle programs introduced by President Joe Biden, including CBP-1, which allows migrants to schedule appointments at the ports of entry for the United States. For months, the Mexican government has been running a program to transport migrants with confirmed appointments to the northern border cities. While these measures offer some relief, the limited availability of seats on buses, however, has left many stranded, anxiously awaiting their turn.
A lot of sadness. You see in this camp, sometimes people cry. There are people who have been here for more than 6 months. They cry, they get desperate, and don't know what to do. There are many people who wanted to come here. Their destination was Mexico, but there are others who are just passing through and now they are stuck here.
Tensions have also been fueled by heightened immigration enforcement within Mexico, where authorities reportedly detained nearly 500,000 irregular migrants in the last 3 months of 2024.
As you can see, there has been a very dramatic decrease, I would say, of 75% compared to exactly 1 year ago. We think it's a model that works, it can be improved, but has responded satisfactorily to this phenomenon that continues and will continue with us.
And in reality, this famous strategy of the federal government, up to now, is to disperse the caravans in a truly dirty way. Because they deceive the women and separate the children and take away the father. They take the mother and child to Merida, they return the father to Villahermosa or Tapachula, and it takes them 1 or 2 months to reunite at the southern border.
Now, despite the challenges, migrants continue to push northward, motivated by the hope of securing legal entry before the window closes. Meanwhile, the Mexican government faces mounting pressure from both Donald Trump and human rights activists for the migrant crisis. With the caravan advancing and political shifts on the horizon, the fate of thousands hangs in the balance, leaving one pressing question: will they make it in time?
news doing the rounds about a metapneumovirus outbreak in China. Let me be very clear on that count. Metapneumovirus is like any other respiratory virus which causes a common cold. And in the very old and the very young, it could cause flu-like symptoms. However, we have analyzed the data of the respiratory outbreaks within the country. There is no substantial increase in December 2024 data, and no cases which have been reported in large numbers from any of our institutions. One thing I would like to convey to the public is to take the general precautions that we use against all respiratory infections, which means in case somebody has cough and cold, he should avoid coming in contact with a lot number of people so that the infection does not spread, and take the normal medicines that are required for cold or fever whenever it's there. Otherwise, nothing to be alarmed about the present situation.